Starters. What do you do for starters and why?
I do retrieval practice. So I have 5 questions on the board. I don't know if you know Adam Box's like retrieval roulette. So he posted like a blog, and I just got about 300 questions, and he just picks it up randomly. 5 questions randomly, and it's on the board when they walk in and they complete it.
So it's kind of quite a structured thing. Do you do it as almost a do now type bell ringer?
Yeah, exactly like that. And sometimes I'll mix it up then. So I'll just say tell me like a brain dump. Tell me everything you know about market structures, all the diagrams, everything. So you've got 10 minutes to write everything you know.
So using it as quite discrete type, using it discrete, like as a discrete chunk not related to the lesson.
Yeah, so I'll just mix it up. It'll be completely random. So it could be something they did start of year 12, or it could be something they did last week. Just to try and catch them on the toes and trying to get them to remember stuff that they should already know.
Any other bits and pieces that we do for starters?
Just easy questions for like retrieval practice. Tutor to You, like knowledge books that have just got like knowledge. I just choose questions out of that to then give them as a little bit of a starter for retrieval from any random topic.
Does anyone use it kind of do it quite structured? Like a last lesson, last week, last month, last year type structure?
Yes, I mean, like everyone else, I do a quiz as well at the start of a lesson. But yeah, I tried doing it randomly, but I think maybe over the last year or so I kind of changed my approach slightly to try and be a bit more deliberate on the questions that I choose. So I think I've got kind of 3 or 4 criteria for them. One of them is obviously what we've done recently. Mm-hmm. So maybe 2 or 3 questions. And I should say all of my A-level are double lessons. So I've had them for quite a long time. So I do quite a long, like 10-question quiz, because obviously I've got them for 2 hours. So I'll start with a few from them recently. I'll always try and do a bit of space practice. So I'll give them a few questions just that they haven't done for ages to make sure. Mm-hmm. And then if there's some prerequisite knowledge that I know they have to know for that lesson, I'll try and make sure I've got a few that relate to that as well. So on our prior example, if I was going to do a lesson on like subsidies, I'd probably ask a couple of questions about positive externalities, because I know that'll be relevant to what we're going to do next. So it's like a combination of recent learning, old learning, and prerequisite knowledge.
And if you've got longer lessons as well, that does help. We have 35-minute left. Well, I don't teach in a classroom at the minute, but the school that I teach at has 35-minute lessons, which by the time you get a 10-minute starter, it's all gone.
One thing I've just done over this past week is just get them to do the application as the retrieval. So we've done exchange rates, we've done tariffs. So the starter has been just them on their phones, finding me, we've already done the theory, so finding me examples of tariffs or finding me examples of exchange rate changes. And then when we've gone to sort of do the revision on the board with diagrams, you do your exchange rate diagram, but then we've got some application there straight away. So we've had to use the Chilean peso change that they found, and it's just starting to apply it a bit more. So bit of combination.
That's nice.
I'm gonna have to zoom off, guys, because I need to be somewhere at 7 o'clock. So lovely chatting. We'll catch up soon. You want to just jump away?
But the thing that's nice about what Ben just said is that if you've got kids coming in dribs and drabs as well, it doesn't need everyone doesn't need to start at the same time. A couple of things I like are looking at trends and just using that time to look at some trends, because a lot of them just don't have any kind of real world knowledge at all. But sticking up a graph of I like the visual capitalist. If you haven't looked at visual capitalist, it's really good. There's kind of infographics, but how does this affect what we've learned? How does the fact that this many people are changing home and that these are working from home or whatever, what's the implications of this? And also the New York Times do, I think it's weekly, but I'm just working through a backlog, is what's going on in this graph, and they give you a graph and they challenge you to make a headline for it. And again, just kind of, it's helpful for them for the kind of quantitative. It's helpful for quantitative side, helping them interpret graphs and data and whatever. But it's also useful for them to see trends, because I think then you can use those in your kind of evaluation of stuff. It gives you more to bring in, particularly at the lower end. So students who might struggle with evaluation, just knowing that, and who probably don't do an awful lot of wider reading, being aware that, I don't know, that there are more banks now than there were 10 years ago. Well, not more, but there are more new entrants to the banking market than there was 10 years ago, or that technology means that there are this many patents now compared to what there used to be, and just knowing some trends over time kind of gives them a bit of ammunition. I think Andrew's written quite a good blog post about how he doesn't really care that kids know specific details, but he likes kids to know. As an examiner, he likes it when kids know the general pattern of what's happened. So I find that one quite useful, but in general I'm not very good at doing starters because I'm a bit anxious to get into them. I just want to get started. I don't want to throw myself into the topic, but I'm aware that the examples you've given are really good for building up the day by day, you know, from scratch, building up some really good solid skills, and just using 5-10 minutes each lesson, and actually probably improves their recall endlessly and their, you know, all the other bits endlessly. Any other bits and pieces on that?
No, you're right. It is time consuming sometimes. Like, you come up with a little thing that you think is going to be a 5-minute starter, and then it takes half an hour. You know, well, there's the rest of my lesson time gone.
But I really like the idea that lots of people said they have the same thing, and actually that probably, we assume that A-level students are really mature and whatever, but really they're just overgrowing year 11s, and actually having a routine, having some expectations that they come in and get sat down and do some work is probably invaluable in lots of senses as well. Any other last thoughts on that?
The only one thing I was going to say on both, on your point about the data trends and linked to what we've seen before about market structure, there's a book that Joseph Stiglitz wrote, People, Power and Profits, and it's obviously, I mean, it's quite kind of left-wing propaganda, but there's a really good chapter in there. Actually, it's got loads of good data. Again, about trends. I think he's got a general theory that the real problem in the economy is there's too many monopoly employers, and that's why wages are low. But there's loads and loads of data about really random firms. Like, he talks about there being an oligopoly in the American pet food industry and all sorts of really ones that you wouldn't really think of naturally. And if you ever either buy it or see it on your Kindle, there's loads of data in there that's really useful.
That you could kind of just drop into lots of places. Yeah. That's good to know. Everybody should go. Yusuf's just written a new blog post yesterday. Yesterday. Yeah. He's always writing, but I recommend you go and read that. And I think, other than that, we should probably leave it there.